As Reno and Furuhashi approach the kaijus, they spot a kaiju sweeper crew member sitting next to a dead kaiju within the danger zone. The cleaner mumbles about how painstakingly he loaded these kaijus with reproductive organs, only to see them being destroyed by the kaiju hunters. Suddenly, he stands up, revealing he's not an ordinary human but the mysterious humanoid kaiju from the exam day. He points his finger at them, ready to shoot. The shot goes through Furuhashi, while barely missing his heart. He fires a shot at Reno, injuring him too. His shots pierce through the suit shield like butter, yet he complains about his bad aim. Reno addresses Furuhashi's wound and helps him. They conclude that it must be the monster that took out Kakoru. The kaiju reveals that he would like to take one of them as a living sample, leaving Reno and Furuhashi shocked. Reno tries to radio for backup forces, but the humanoid kaiju has already blocked all radio communication. It's a trick he uses to remain hidden whenever he hunts humans. He once again gets ready to shoot. Reno recalls what Kakoru told him about her encounter and dodges the shot. Reno shoots back at the kaiju and asks Furuhashi to retreat and bring reinforcements. Furuhashi initially refuses, but realizing their helplessness, he retreats for backup. Reno motivates himself and provides cover fire for Furuhashi to retreat. He tries to pin the kaiju, but the kaiju closes the distance between them and blasts Reno with a surprise attack. Fortunately, Furuhashi saves Reno in time. Furuhashi reasons that he is done being saved every time, and this time it will be him who will save others. And he has already fired a flare for backup. The duo devises a plan to take down the kaiju, and as per the plan, Reno charges towards the kaiju while Furuhashi literally shocks the kaiju with a conductor round to make an opening for Reno. The plan proves to be working, and Reno blasts the kaiju with a massive blast. But the kaiju proves himself to be covers himself with corpses. The kaiju rips out of the corpses and brutally attacks Reno. Meanwhile, Hoshina gets to know about the lost connection with Reno and Furuhashi. Kafka gets concerned when he hears about it. He witnesses some movement in kaiju corpses and senses the same presence he felt on the exam day and knows who might have posted him a visit. The kaiju targets Reno's nerves to incapacitate him to take him as a test subject. Furuhashi again tries to shock the kaiju, but it doesn't work. He again tries to attack him, but his gun malfunctions. He feels his helplessness and asks God to help him save his friend. The kaiju is done preparing Reno as his hostage and aims at Furuhashi to kill him. But suddenly, Kafka appears right behind him in his Kaiju No. 8 form, and throws a hard punch at him in anger. The punch is so hard that the kaiju literally loses his head. Kafka takes Reno behind some cover and asks him to use his suit to bind his wound. The kaiju recovers and regenerates its head, while complimenting Kafka for being strong and desiring to take over his body for himself. The kaiju stands up and forms multiple appendages to fire a volley of shots at Kafka. But to his utter shock, Kafka reacts with a sonic roar and nullifies the shots. Kafka closes the distance and punches the hell out of the kaiju. The kaiju grabs multiple corpses to cover him to recover, but Kafka cuts through them and beats the shit out of him. While getting absolutely owned by Kafka, he realizes that his body is not recovering as fast as it should have. Kafka decides to attack his core to end him once and for all. The kaiju tries to stop him but still gets obliterated by the punch. He barely manages to keep his body together, at least what is left of it, but exposes his vulnerable core. But when Kafka was about to finish him, the defense forces arrive and spot him. Seizing the opportunity, the kaiju manages to escape, while remarking that, despite being a monster, Kaiju No. 8 eerily behaves more like a human. Kafka can't do anything now and decides to retreat too. He finds a secluded place to transform back, but comes across a menacing silhouette of Hoshina. Based on the description, Hoshina identifies Kaiju No. 8. Hoshina relays the location to the defense force and immediately charges at Kaiju No. 8. Kafka barely manages to dodge his attacks, and only his tough skin saved him from being a sushi right now. The ever-laughing vice captain is nowhere to be seen, and it's Hoshina the Kaiju Slayer, who is in charge now. Hoshina removes his limiter and unleashes 92% of his potential. Kafka is helpless against Hoshina, as his one punch can cause grave injury to him. But Hoshina has no such inhibition and pierces No. 8's tough skin with a slash. Kafka tries to escape, but Hoshina follows him with his inhumane speed, and slashes him despite Kafka's precise dodging. Kafka loses a lot of stamina to heal himself and can't keep up for long. Kafka decides to play the gamble and plans to retaliate, but Hoshina is too powerful. With his air slasher technique, he chops Kafka's limb after limb. Hoshina detects Kafka's core and comes gunning for it, but Kafka manages to grab his sword. Seeing the opportunity, Kafka prepares his punch and shatters Hoshina's sword and disorients him. And with this, Kafka manages to escape. Meanwhile, Kakoru is conflicted if she can trust Kafka. Immediately, Kafka arrives there and apologizes for making her worry. Kafka is weakened after the battle. Kakoru helps him and warns him that Hoshina might catch up to him if he keeps being reckless and carries him to the base. A while later, Mina meets up with Hoshina and snaps a pic of him. Hoshina remarks that Kaiju number 8 is a Daikaiju, but surprisingly it didn't attack him. He felt as if he was fighting a human. Suddenly, Hoshina gets to know that Reno and Furuhashi were attacked by the Kaiju seen on the exam day, and it was in a human form. Hoshina investigates the humanoid Kaiju who worked with Kaiju sweepers in disguise. A transforming Kaiju, who can easily hide among humans like a monster lurking in shadows. While driving, a man comes across a strange man walking in the middle of the road and asks him to move. The Kaiju gets furious but decides to use this man as his new disguise. The new Kaiju has been named Kaiju number 9, and he vows to kill Kaiju number 8. Next morning, Reno thanks Kafka for saving him and Furuhashi. 2 weeks later, they get discharged from the hospital, and the team throws a welcome back party for them. Haruichi, the son of the Izumo Tech's owner, the company that makes the Kaiju battlesuits, orders the best beef and chef for the party. Everyone is having a blast at the party. A while later, Hoshina makes an announcement. During the mission, Kafka provided vital intel about Kaiju anatomy and it proved to be very effective. For his highly praised contribution, Kafka gets promoted to the rank of a general officer. Next day, Kafka takes oath as an officer, but Mina reminds him of his promise, which is still far away. Calling her by her first name, Kafka expresses his determination, but gets punished with 50 push-ups for informally addressing his senior. She reveals that despite his own efforts, it was Hoshina who recommended him for promotion, and he better live up to his expectation. With that, she leaves for the headquarters. Later at night, Kafka finishes his work and calls it a day. But while returning, he notices Hoshina training with mental imagery of his battle with Kaiju number 8. Being asked by Kafka, Hoshina reveals that he is training to take down Kaiju number 8 for good the next time he meets him, as these new Kaijus are too powerful for the troops to handle, and regrets wasting his last opportunity to gauge its abilities. Seeing this, Kafka gets scared as hell for his life, and he should be. But he also develops a newfound respect for Hoshina, a vice captain who is willing to save not only the civilians but also his troops with his own life. Feeling motivated, Kafka promises to become a valuable asset to him. But Hoshina brings him back to his 1% reality. Little did they knew, an airborne chaos was heading towards them. Outside, Kafka heads towards his room to get some sleep, but suddenly, an aerial bombardment wrecks the whole base. Hoshina is radioed about the Honju air raid. Multiple Honjus of Fortitude 6.4 have attacked the base. Hoshina orders every troop to be deployed. The whole base gets decimated due to the bombardment. Among the rubble, Kafka spots multiple Wyvern-type Honjus. He immediately reports it to Hoshina and explains that there are multiple types of these wyverns, but due to their immense pride, they are never seen together as a pack. But contrary to the past, today they are operating as a pack. They must have a very powerful leader to band them together for a designated cause. And with that, the raider appears in front of Hoshina and asks for the strongest person on the base to fight him. Hoshina accepts his challenge and gets ready to fight Raider. Raider attempts to attack him with a sonic snap, but Hoshina quickly dodges it. Over the radio, Raider is detected to be a Honju of Fortitude 8.3. The enraged Raider again tries to punch Hoshina's head, but Hoshina swiftly dodges it once again. Raider's each strike is like a meteorite strike. Taking even one of them can be devastating for him. The battle between them continues. Meanwhile, on the east side, the KDF puts out massive firepower at the Wyvern Honjus, but they are unscathed by all that, nothing affected them. But fortunately for them, Kafka shares vital intel. These wyverns have strong shielding in front to protect their core during flight, while their backs have minimal shielding to save weight for flight, and they should target them there. They devise a plan to flank the wyvern from both sides. Aoi distracts from the front, while Haruichi tries to blow its back. But it's not just them who are teaming up, and another wyvern comes to rescue its buddy and attacks Haruichi. The only viable plan against these wyverns has been foiled, but to their shock, Kakoru comes up with a new plan and goes right through the front of the wyvern, obliterating it into smithereens with her new weapon. Kakoru received a new personal weapon from the defense force, for being the strongest among the troops and due to the abnormal rise in much stronger kaiju appearances. With the axe's shockwave thruster, Kakoru proceeds to annihilate another Honju. But suddenly, she gets jumped by a flying wyvern. But fortunately, Reno saves her with his freeze rounds. Seeing this, Kakoru teams up with Reno to fight these Honjus. On the other side, the battle between Raider and Hoshina continues. Seeing the destructive capabilities of Raider, Hoshina decides to lure him to the training grounds to unleash his full potential, without the risk of friendly fire on his team. Seeing the potential of Hoshina, Raider compliments him as, even among kaijus many can't hold up against him, and threatens that he will feed on him after this. With that, he punches Hoshina into a wall. Fortunately, Hoshina chopped his arm before his punch made contact. Hoshina rises from the debris and unleashes his full potential to beat Raider's ass into pulp.